I've actively followed the David case since the information started breaking 7 months ago, and I want to give you the latest update on it. So, 2 days ago, most of you know, David was arrested following a lengthy investigation, but he wasn't immediately charged. He was held without bail, but they didn't announce any charges at the time. Today that has changed. They have announced the charges here, and if found guilty, they could carry a maximum penalty of life in prison or even the death penalty.
These charges include the most serious charges that a DA's office can bring. That is first-degree murder with special circumstances. The special circumstances being lying in wait, committing this crime for financial gain, or murdering a witness in an investigation. These special circumstances carry with it, along with the first-degree murder charge, a maximum sentence of life without the possibility of parole or the death penalty.
Anyone who's followed this case even loosely probably isn't surprised to hear those charges being announced there. The evidence has been overwhelming. He hasn't been found guilty yet, but I gotta tell you, I think even Saul Goodman would struggle handling a case like this. And these aren't the only charges he's facing. There's also additional charges as well.
Before I get into the actual charges, and there are additional charges against Mr. Burke, including continuous sexual acts, lewd and lascivious sexual acts, with an individual under 14 years old and mutilating a human remains of a body.
This case is about as disgusting as it gets. And again, it did take a while getting here, but I imagine the fact that they have now arrested and brought these charges forth means that they have sufficient evidence to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that David is guilty of these crimes for which he is accused. There is an overwhelming amount of evidence available to the public, by the way, right there at your fingertips. And even still, and I know I mentioned this in the last video, but I just can't get over just how bafflingly insane this is. There are David defenders. I'm talking about David drones that are constantly fighting tooth and nail, trying to proclaim his innocence, saying that this is all a frame job and he's been set up. Which is crazy to me, because no matter how you spin this, there is irrefutable evidence to confirm that at the very least, David was in a relationship with a child. And these dummies for David, this movement here, likes to plug their ears to that fact and just dodge it. But it's like trying to dodge the rain. It's impossible to overlook that because it is fucking vile. And it is not based on circumstantial evidence, which is the buzzword they love to use in regards to this case when defending David. That is provable that he was dating Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a child. And according to authorities, his motive for her murder was to protect his career because she had apparently threatened to report their sexual relationship. She was reported missing by her family in 2024 when she was 13. And according to the allegation in a criminal complaint, the singer engaged in continuous sexual abuse of her for at least a year from September 2023 to September 2024. And then when she was 14, they believe she was killed with a sharp object on or around April 23rd of 2025 when she was heading to the singer's house in the Hollywood Hills. This is the first time her cause of death has been publicized. Her body was chopped into pieces and stuffed in the back of David's trunk, his vehicle's trunk. So it was especially difficult for authorities to figure out what actually killed her here because her body was decomposing and in pieces, which is where that mutilation of human remains charge comes from. Now, I want to briefly opine on that motive they allege here in this case, because based on all available information, that does track. There are photos and videos of David and Celeste together, and members of his community knew about their relationship. Notably, some of his moderators were aware of it, though according to their own PR statement they put out to try and debunk the claims that they knew about it and said nothing, they defended themselves by saying that yes, they knew about her, but they didn't know her age nor her status as a missing person. I have no idea if that's true or not, or if they're just desperately trying to cover their own assholes there, but the point is, people did know David was in a relationship with this girl, and if she made a reference to letting people know her age, then it stands to reason that David would panic, fearing that it would jeopardize his career, which was blowing up at the time. And maybe in that panic, he took drastic measures and killed her in order to protect that from getting out.
Calling People versus David Anthony Burke. That's case number 26 CJC F02399.
Good morning or good afternoon, Your Honor. Blair Burke, Marilyn Bednarski, and Regina Peter on behalf of our client David Burke, who's in custody.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Burke. For the people.
Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman for the people, Your Honor.
Thank you. And counsel, on behalf of your client, do you waive formal reading of the complaint, advisement of rights, including armed forces and veterans' rights, enter a plea of not guilty, denying any and all special allegations, enhancements, and priors?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, unsurprisingly, David and his legal team are entering a plea of not guilty. They are looking to fight the charges. That should not come as a surprise to anyone. This shouldn't be something that has someone's mouth fucking hit the floor, jaw agape, recoil, and fly into the back of their chair like, what? Who could have seen that coming? That is standard procedure. There is no dimension in the multiverse where David was going to come in here fucking representing himself and just be like, yeah, I'm guilty, and I'm sorry, and then hit like a fucking power chord on the ukulele. That was never going to be the case. Because if he does plead guilty, he is facing those charges head on, and he might avoid the death penalty, but it's still going to be life in prison. So there was always going to be a not guilty plea entered from David's team here. That is not a shock at all.
So we are asking for a preliminary hearing to be set at the earliest possible date on the 10th day. Your Honor, we believe the actual evidence will show David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, nor was he the cause of her death. And we would like to be able to have the evidence come into the light of day at the earliest opportunity in order to establish that. We're asking for April 23rd as a 3 of 10, Your Honor.
Anything from the people?
We'll be very happy to put on the evidence that we've collected in this case in the last several months.
Thank you. So the matter will be set. Plea of not guilty has been entered on.
So David's team is looking to move lickety-split. They're trying to speed run this process here. They're going for a court any percent gold split, and everyone's willing to play ball here. The other side saying, okay, you know what? We're extremely happy to do that. We would love to showcase the evidence that we've compiled over these 7 months. And what was very surprising is what came after this section.
Given almost no discovery thus far, we've received a 3-page follow-up report, no autopsy report, and a copy of the complaint. And we would ask the people respectfully to produce discovery at the earliest opportunity.
Your Honor, as I indicated to counsel, there's approximately 40 terabytes of discovery in this case. Moreover, in order to obtain the transcripts from a grand jury investigation, counsel has to file a motion. She knows the way the system works. I'm not able to gather those. They have to be provided after the court orders them released because it was an investigation. Second of all, if counsel plans on going to a preliminary hearing within the 10 days, it is unlikely that there will be very much discovery provided within that period, given the voluminous nature and how long it's going to take to copy onto drives.
40 fucking terabytes of evidence they have gathered against David from the sound of things. That is an unfathomable amount. Now, the way that information just came out, the chess pieces that got set up on the board here were David's team made a mention of the discovery or lack thereof, that they were unsatisfied really with where discovery was there. So then it was mentioned, well, discovery is going to be kind of hard here because of how much volume there is. 40 terabytes, and you're looking to set up a preliminary hearing within such a short time frame. It's going to be extremely difficult for us to get all of that information to you for this discovery. And also, they made a reference to discovery with like the grand jury. Can't really do anything about that. That needs to come from a court order. But the shocking piece of information there was how much evidence they seemingly have against David here from their investigation. 40 terabytes is a ridiculous amount of anything in general. So that's a lot. That really is a lot. That caught me by surprise, because there's a lot of evidence out there available to the public in this case about David and everything here. But 40 terabytes is more than I would have possibly envisioned for this. So anyway, it looks like they're going to be moving this along very fast. So I guess we'll be getting more and more information pretty quickly. I just wanted to give you the update to things now that the charges are out there. And again, personally, I feel David is definitely guilty in the murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. I think all of the evidence points to him being the only one that it could possibly be. I don't think he was framed. And again, it is proven that he was in a relationship with this child. So that additional charge of the lewd and lascivious acts with a minor, I think there is no possible defense they could even begin to squeak out there in that charge alone, let alone everything else that is available for everything else in regards to her death, as well as her body being chopped up, the mutilation of her corpse. All of that all seems to point directly to David. But I guess we'll find out as this process continues. Anyway, fucking awful stuff, man. This case is so fucking gross, and I really, really, really hope that there will be justice for Celeste here. Anyway, that's really about it. See ya.